What if a single bolt, just one, was all it took to bring down a giant Boeing 747? What if hundreds of lives were lost, not to a terrorist attack or pilot error, but to a simple, overlooked repair? Imagine boarding a routine domestic flight, expecting a quick hop from one city to another. You settle into your seat, the plane takes off, and then, without warning, chaos erupts. The cabin shakes violently, oxygen masks drop, and the pilots fight a losing battle against an invisible enemy. This isn't a movie. This is the real-life nightmare of Japan Airlines Flight 123, a tragedy that claimed 520 lives and remains the deadliest single aircraft disaster in aviation history. What went wrong? How did a routine flight turn into a 32-minute descent into hell? And what lessons did it leave behind? Buckle up as we unravel the chilling story, the mechanical failures, and the heroic yet heartbreaking efforts of the crew. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747 SR-46, took off from Tokyo's Haneda Airport at 6:12 p.m., bound for Osaka, a 55-minute journey. The flight carried 509 passengers and 15 crew members, 524 souls in total. It was a warm summer evening, and for most, this was just another flight in one of the world's most reliable aircraft, operated by one of Japan's premier airlines. But 12 minutes after takeoff, a catastrophic failure would turn this routine trip into a desperate struggle for survival. In this episode, we'll walk you through the timeline of events, dive into the mechanical and human factors that led to the disaster, and analyze the investigation that uncovered shocking truths. We'll explore the cockpit recordings, the pilot's heroic efforts, and the haunting legacy of Flight 123. By the end, you'll understand not just what happened, but why it matters today. Just 12 minutes after takeoff, as Flight 123 climbed to 24,000 feet over Sagami Bay, a deafening explosion rocked the aircraft. Passengers heard a loud bang, followed by a rush of air. Oxygen masks deployed as the cabin depressurized. In the cockpit, Captain Masami Takahama, First Officer Yutaka Sasaki, and Flight Engineer Hiroshi Fukuda faced an immediate crisis. The plane's hydraulic systems, critical for controlling the rudder, elevators, and ailerons, failed almost instantly. The Boeing 747 was now a 400-ton behemoth, barely controllable, veering erratically through the sky. The explosion came from the rear pressure bulkhead, a critical component separating the pressurized cabin from the unpressurized tail section. A rupture here unleashed a chain reaction. The tail fin was severely damaged, and the hydraulic lines, which act like the plane's nervous system, were severed. Without hydraulics, the pilots could barely steer or adjust altitude. The plane entered a dangerous, phugoid cycle, pitching up and down uncontrollably as the crew fought to stabilize it. For 32 agonizing minutes, the crew battled to keep Flight 123 airborne. Captain Takahama, a seasoned pilot with over 12,000 flight hours, used every ounce of skill to control the plane. Without hydraulics, the pilots resorted to differential engine thrust, adjusting the power of the four engines to steer the aircraft. It was an extraordinary feat, akin to steering a car with no steering wheel, using only the gas pedal and brakes. The cockpit voice recorder, CVR, later revealed their calm professionalism amidst chaos. Captain Takahama raised the nose. Power. Power. First Officer Sasaki, it's not responding. Flight Engineer Fukuda, hydraulic pressure is 0. Passengers, meanwhile, scribbled farewell notes to loved ones, aware of the looming disaster. Flight attendants, trained for emergencies, did their best to maintain calm, but the situation was dire. The plane's erratic movements made it clear, survival was uncertain. Despite the crew's efforts, Flight 123 was on a collision course with fate. At 6:56 p.m., the plane crashed into Mount Takamagara, a remote ridge in the mountains of Gunma Prefecture, about 100 kilometers from Tokyo. The impact was catastrophic, scattering wreckage across the forested slopes. The Boeing 747 disintegrated, leaving a trail of devastation. Of the 524 people on board, only 4 survived, 3 women and a 12-year-old girl, found amidst the wreckage after a grueling 14-hour rescue effort. The crash site was so remote that rescue teams struggled to reach it. When they arrived, the scene was heart-wrenching. Personal belongings, handwritten notes, and the remains of hundreds of lives littered the mountainside. The 4 survivors, found in a heavily forested area, were a miracle amidst the tragedy, but their survival underscored the scale of the loss. The disaster claimed 520 lives, including passengers from all walks of life, families, business travelers, and even a famous Japanese singer, Kyu Sakamoto. The loss sent shockwaves through Japan and the global aviation community. Families gathered at makeshift memorials, and the nation mourned as news footage showed the wreckage and the painstaking recovery efforts. Japan's Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission, with support from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and Boeing, launched an exhaustive investigation. The wreckage revealed a critical clue: the rear pressure bulkhead had failed. But why? Investigators traced the issue back to a repair performed 7 years earlier, in 1978, after the plane suffered a tail strike during a landing. Boeing engineers had repaired the rear pressure bulkhead, but the fix was fatally flawed. Instead of using a single continuous splice plate to reinforce the bulkhead, technicians used 2 separate plates, secured with an inadequate number of rivets. Over time, the constant pressurization cycles, thousands of takeoffs and landings, weakened the repair. On August 12, 1985, the bulkhead gave way, triggering the catastrophic chain of events. The rear pressure bulkhead's rupture caused a rapid decompression, blowing out part of the vertical stabilizer and severing all 4 hydraulic systems. Without hydraulics, the pilots had no conventional control over the plane's flight surfaces. The investigation revealed that the faulty repair had created a ticking time bomb, with metal fatigue accumulating over years of service. Shockingly, Boeing's quality control and Japan Airlines maintenance oversight had failed to catch the error. The CVR and Flight Data Recorder, FDR, provided further insights. The pilot's use of differential thrust was a remarkable display of skill, extending the flight by 32 minutes when most aircraft would have crashed sooner. However, the damage was too severe, and the plane's design offered no backup systems robust enough to compensate for a total hydraulic failure. The disaster prompted sweeping changes in the aviation industry. Improved maintenance oversight, airlines worldwide tightened quality control for repairs, emphasizing rigorous inspections of critical components like pressure bulkheads. Redundant systems, aircraft manufacturers began exploring designs with more robust backup systems to handle hydraulic failures. Training for abnormal situations, pilots received enhanced training for scenarios involving loss of control, including the use of differential thrust. Japan Airlines took full responsibility, with its president resigning and the airline paying substantial compensation to victims' families. The tragedy also led to cultural shifts in Japan's aviation industry, prioritizing safety over schedule. Flight 123 highlighted the limits of human endurance and the heroism of the crew. Captain Takahama and his team fought against impossible odds, earning admiration for their professionalism. The survivors' stories, of clinging to life amidst the wreckage, became symbols of resilience. The disaster also sparked discussions about mental health support for survivors and families, as well as for rescue workers who faced the harrowing task of recovering remains. Japan Airlines established memorials at the crash site and in Osaka, where families continue to gather annually. Could a disaster like Flight 123 happen today? Modern aircraft are designed with more redundant systems, and maintenance protocols are stricter. However, human error remains a persistent risk. The 2019 Boeing 737 MAX crashes reminded the industry that design flaws and oversight failures can still lead to catastrophe. Flight 123 serves as a sobering reminder that safety requires constant vigilance. Predictively, advancements in AI and automation may reduce human error in maintenance and inspections. Drones and sensors could detect metal fatigue before it becomes critical. Yet, as aircraft become more complex, new risks may emerge, requiring ongoing innovation. Japan Airlines Flight 123 is more than a statistic. It's a story of human courage, systemic failure, and the relentless pursuit of safety. The 520 lives lost on Mount Takamagara continue to shape aviation, reminding us that every flight we take today is safer because of the lessons learned from their sacrifice. As we reflect on this tragedy, let's honor the memory of the passengers, crew, and rescuers by ensuring such a disaster never happens again. What do you think? Could the pilots have done anything differently? How far have we come in aviation safety? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this episode gripping, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into aviation history. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.